YouTube subscribers. Go subscribe already. Hit the fucking like button and subscribe before I knock your ass out, man. I ain't fucking with you, man.
UFC Vegas 26, the card where we did not know the main event until a couple days ago. Main event was supposed to be Dillashaw and Sandhagen, which was going to be a firecracker type of fight. I would have loved to see that fight, and definitely looking forward to it. But hey, he got injured, Dillashaw. He had that big cut on his eye. I don't know if you guys seen that. You know, I thought they should have moved Neal and Magny up. They didn't. They moved. They got the Rodriguez and Waterson fight together. So hey, you know, I wouldn't really call that a main event, but at the end of the day, it should be a decent fight. I don't think it should be a main event, but it is. So we'll see 5 rounds. It's tough when you try to move an event up. Let's say there was a co-main or another fight on the event card. You'd have to get them to both agree to 5 rounds. So that could have been an issue if they did ask someone else. But hey, we have Waterson and Rodriguez in the main event there. And speaking of main events, what a main event last weekend, guys. UFC Vegas 25. Yuri is officially the real deal, guys. Yuri is the real deal. I stayed off for a side from that. I wanted Yuri another fight in the UFC to prove it. I know some people are on Reyes and the plus money. I stayed away. I did like the fight not to go the distance. That was a fairly easy play. You paid for it. But if you put in a 2-fight parlay, you probably got a decent return as long as you hit the other play. It was a great fight, guys. And Yuri, how he fights, it's very tough to beat. He puts a lot of pressure on you guys, and he can take a punch. So it's going to be an issue for a lot of guys. I'd love to see him fight Yon. Maybe Rakic if he doesn't want to wait. So that will be interesting. But Reyes didn't fight that bad of a fight, guys. He got a lot of good shots in there, a lot of counters, a lot of strong lefts. Yuri was just able to take it. He got a kick on him where he got him dizzy. So he could have won that fight. He wasn't totally outclassed in that fight, right? Yuri landed a really nice elbow, and at the end of the day, he couldn't handle the pressure, Reyes. So very excited to see what Yuri does, in the future here. Definitely Mortal Kombat style, very professional style fighter. Really loves the sport and really takes mixed martial arts seriously, samurai type style. So can't wait to see him fight next. Starting to be one of my favorite fighters to watch now. And a couple other fights we'll go over. Obviously, I was on the Giga side. I had him by decision and over 2.5 rounds. And I thought Cub, obviously no one saw a kick like that coming, right? He had a kick that landed in the liver, and even a guy like Cub, who's super tough, couldn't take it. And he got Cub out of there quickly. One of the best strikers, I think, right now in the UFC is Giga. Someone's going to have to try to take him down. And I thought Cub's strategy would be to try to take him down if he couldn't strike with him, but he didn't get a chance to get there. So that's going to be interesting to see moving forward with Giga. Let's see if he can stop takedowns, and when he gets in there with a wrestler, how is he going to be able to handle it, right? So that'll be definitely interesting, but hey, another big prospect in his division. He should get someone in the top 10 next. Merab as well, great win for Merab. Definitely his toughest test yet, and he passed it with flying colors. Stamen put up a good fight, but Merab was just a little better, and a little better in the striking department than I thought he would be. And that's where he was able to exceed my expectation, was on the feet. And he did get better there. So he's a handful to fight, guys. You don't want to fight this guy. He's the last guy when you say, you're going to be fighting Merab. You're not going to be excited about that, because he's going to outwork you. He's going to out-wrestle you, out-grapple you. And you've seen his striking improving. So dangerous guy moving forward in this division. I would not want to fight the guy. And the nice win by Strickland. We had Strickland. It was a minus 250, so you couldn't bet him straight up. So we did have him in mixed parlay, 2-fight parlay, but we did end up losing that parlay because I did have Giga and Cub fight over 2.5 rounds. So did not, do too well in the 2-fight parlay this week. Did have a couple wins. We had the nice TJ Brown win. That was a close fight, but it was plus 130. And like I said, the main event, I did have it not to go the distance, but we did not get lucky with the decision on Giga. So we did not have a profitable week last week. Let's look at the update here. Just to go a little more on that Strickland fight. He showed really nice pressure and patience versus Jocko. Jocko's also a good striker. He showed great patience in that fight. And I think Strickland's a real deal, guys. I want to see him. I think he struggles if he goes up against a grappler wrestler. So I would like to see that if he gets into that top 10, guys are going to be able to do everything. Jocko was not a wrestler. He was just a pure stand-up guy. So Strickland matchup was perfect for him. So it'll be interesting to see how Strickland does moving forward against tougher competition that's more well-rounded. Let's get the weekly updates, guys. Weekly updates. No best bets last week. We stay at 64% long-term run. Plus 32.4 units. Trying to get going here, guys. It's been a good week, a bad week, a good week, a bad week. Trying to put on a big streak here. Hopefully that will come soon. Continuing to find winners in the NHL, guys. NHL, we continue to find winners. We did have a couple tough luck losses with the Islanders, though. Now, I mentioned I do 2-fight moneyline parlays sometimes, and I did it this week. We just had Pittsburgh, easy winner, 7-2 winner over Philly. And I had the Islanders to bounce back, and they lost in a shootout to the Sabres. Back-to-back losses to the Sabres is very embarrassing, especially when you're trying to, start playing playoff hockey. Playoffs are around the corner. And you want to start, you're still battling for top spot or second in the division, and you're going to lose back-to-back to Buffalo Sabres. Very tough. I was at 69% run until the Islanders screwed me back-to-back nights. So 67% long-term run still, guys. Very, very good. Anything over 60%, you're very solid there. So, my goal is always 70. Always 70. Always tough to get up to there. But I flirt around getting up to 70% in many sports. 65% year-to-date, guys, in the NHL. 65% year-to-date. Last week, PGA, guys, we just missed out 5 straight profitable PGA events after a huge April. April was close to 20 units in profit on props alone, on matchup bets alone. We had 2 outrights as well, separate from that plus 20 units. 2 outrights combining plus 2,400, guys. Plus 2,400. Small loss in units last week. Only 0.6 units lost. Update is right here. Still above plus 55 units on props. 8 outrights and 70% best bets just over a year. MLB was profitable last week. We hit our only plus money Sunday afternoon special play. We'll pick it up in the MLB shortly on volume, guys. I know it didn't start great, but I'm focused on 3-4 other sports right now. MLB will get going. I will be focusing more time on MLB, and no NBA plays last week. Playoffs are around the corner, so I'll be getting into that more. You guys know where to find me, systemsportscapping.com, for all subscription options and updated records on all sports. Remember, guys, before I get into the fights here, shop around and have multiple books. Don't just have one book. You're limiting yourself to winning money. You're limiting yourself to profits and for better lines. Shop around and have multiple books to get the best number. These numbers I'm giving you here aren't the best numbers. They're just numbers that I have here on the graphics. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. Main event, guys. Main event. Rodriguez minus 210 versus Watterson plus 175. Whew. Some value there with Watterson. High number. The main event that just came together a few days ago, not your typical main event like I mentioned. I think there are maybe 2 better fights on this card that could have been main event, but I mentioned it earlier, and there are, no one could just go into a main event. You can't just jump into a main event if you haven't trained for it. Maybe someone didn't disagree, or maybe this was their plan all along. Watterson has the fan base, so I get it, right? And Rodriguez is coming off that big win versus Rebas, who a lot of fans were starting to talk about Rebas. Big KO win against her. Both girls are taking the 5-round main event at short notice, so no advantages there. They both didn't know this was going to be, a 5-round fight, so nothing there. But where I do see advantages is with Rodriguez striking, guys. Rodriguez may be one of the best strikers in the division, or even mixed martial arts MMA women's division, all of women's division. So I really like what I see from her in the striking department. However, her issues always was her grappling and wrestling. I think it's not even average. I think it's a little below average. Now you have to see how much she improved on it. We'll have to find out. Due to that, it's been hard for me to bet on her often. I've won one ticket on her, but I've been mostly fading her. And I did have Rebas in that fight. Just due to her takedowns. And Reba showed it in the first round, right? She was able to get her down. Second round, she decided to stand, and you seen what happened. You seen Rodriguez seen that opportunity and took full advantage of it by knocking her out. She's obviously working on her takedown defense and grappling. We just haven't really been able to see it. Like I mentioned with Rebas, that's what she does, right? She's able to grapple, great on the ground, will look for submissions. And that's what I think Watterson will have to do here. Now, the thing is, Watterson's also a striker, right? Nice kicks, karate style, hence the karate hottie nickname. She can work the takedowns. However, she isn't a wrestler or really known for her grappling like Rebas, right? Watterson's also fairly low volume compared to Maria. Doesn't hit as hard. Won't knock you out with any strikes. If you remember Watterson's last fight versus Hill, I just watched it actually about half an hour ago. It was a brawl, a great fight. She was able to win that by split decision. Most of that fight was on the feet, however. She did work in a few takedowns. She did get a few takedowns on Hill, and that's the best way to beat Hill, is to take her down. But that wasn't Watterson's game plan for the most part, right? She isn't really known to fight like that. She likes to be on her feet. She likes to strike. If Watterson wants to win this fight, she will have to try to get this to the ground, in my opinion, guys, and even grapple against the cage. I think she'll be the stronger girl in there. And with Rodriguez, that's mainly why I can't go all in on here. And that's why I don't love this minus 210, is because of that strength and grappling advantage. I do like Rodriguez in this fight. I don't see it going... I could see it going 5. It's very likely that it could go 5, because I know Watterson's going to be looking for that right hand and that power. And this is a very tough fight to call an outcome from. Me, guys, if I see a minus 200 or 180 or even 70 or higher that I like, I'll try to find an outcome. And I do fairly well finding the outcomes. Last week wasn't that great. But it's hard here. It's very tough here. I haven't seen Watterson get knocked out in her career in the UFC. I think there was maybe a submission, but, Rodriguez isn't known for her submissions. Rodriguez hasn't been knocked out either. So it's tough to say, this fight's going to go to the distance. It's tough to say, Rodriguez is going to catch her. I think if this fight gets stopped, it's because of a cut or it's because of an injury. I know Rodriguez loves to throw elbows. She could cut Watterson open. Something like that I can see. I don't really see a clean knockout like Reba's. I think Watterson will be prepared and ready for that. But I think Rodriguez could win by volume, right? Outstrike her if it does go 5 rounds. It's just how much is Watterson going to incorporate the takedowns? How much is she going to work her against the fence? And that's the question here. So that's why I can't really go all in Rodriguez at minus 210. Now, I may look at the 2-fight parlay and put Rodriguez in at minus 210. But I can't get to an outcome here, guys. I just cannot. And obviously, if you like Watterson, and there is value there, I wouldn't call you crazy for taking Watterson plus 175. She has the experience advantage. She has the main card main event experience. She has 2 5-round fights under her belt. I don't blame you for taking a plus 175. I just don't think it's the best matchup for her. That's the only problem. And Rodriguez is coming off that big KO. And if this does stay on the feet, which I think it should for the most part, Rodriguez has the advantage in the striking department. So yeah, I do like Rodriguez here. I just can't obviously bet it straight. I suggest you don't lay that money to bet it straight versus due to the few reasons I just mentioned with advantage to Waterson. But I'll probably be looking at a 2-fight parlay where I can get some plus money value when I parlay it with another fight. Co-main, guys. Donald Cerrone. Yes, Cowboy is back. And he's favored, minus 170 versus Moreno, plus 145. Obviously, Moreno stepped in and took this on short notice due to Diego Sanchez drama. I'm not going to even get into that. It's wild. I won't get into it. I can rant about that for hours, to be honest. It's definitely, I think, a tougher matchup for Cerrone. Obviously, Sanchez at the end of his career. And even though if it's on short notice for Moreno, I do think it is a tougher fight. We all know the story of Cowboy. I love the guy. I love the way he fights. Very entertaining. And I do think he's a true Hall of Famer. But what does he have left at this point is the big question. Donald doesn't have a win in his 5 fights. In his last 5 fights, sorry. Nico Price draw. Pettis loss. McGregor loss. Gaethje loss. Ferguson loss. Sure, all killers, minus Nico. So I get the losses, especially towards the end of his career, but they weren't really close, guys. None of these fights, right? Either knockouts or unanimous decision wins. You can see, he's struggling to take a shot, right? Against Price, he did a little better, but Price doesn't have the same power of striking as those guys that I just mentioned. Now Moreno, I think, is a big step down compared to his competition, minus the, Price fight. Similar levels, I think, to Nico Price. I think Nico Price is a little trickier to fight because he is all over the place and awkward. Moreno lost his last 2 out of 3 fights. Pettis and Chaos Williams. No slouches, but had a solid win over Reese McKee. I see the value here with Moreno at plus 145. He has been training. He mentioned in a few interviews that I watched, preparing his camp and his team for fights that are all coming up. And Moreno is fairly well-rounded, but he's not great at anything, right? Does have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, has some decent boxing, has some amateur and professional boxing fights under his belt, decent footwork as well. He's a tough guy. And I do think it's going to be a tough fight for Donald. This is a classic type of fight where I do like the value with Moreno and cannot lay minus 170 with Donald Cerrone at this point. I just can't get there. He doesn't have many fights left, guys. This is one thing where I look at Cerrone. He doesn't have many fights left. He wants to leave on a winning note, and Moreno's a beatable guy. Right, I'm just not willing to pay a minus 170 to find out if Cerrone can win this fight. Right, so the only way I would look at it is Moreno plus 145. It hasn't made my subscriber card as of yet. It probably won't. If it does, it's going to be a small play of Moreno at plus 145, just due to value purposes. But yeah, not a big opinion on this, and it's tough to see rounds too. Over in rounds, I can't get there. I can't get the fight goes the distance. It could end early, guys. I think Moreno's going to come out hard if he catches Cerrone. Cerrone may catch him too. It's not a fight I'm going to really be involved in for the most part. Just hopefully Donald shows up and doesn't get finished early in this one. Magny. Neil minus 190 versus Magny plus 160. More value. I thought this fight should have been moved maybe to the main card. It is on the main card, the main event, but I guess not. Remember, guys, they have to agree to moving to the 5-rounder, so I'm not too sure if that happened here. Line looks a bit high. It looks a bit high. I definitely see some value with Magny. Neil's coming off that tough 5-round loss to Thompson, which provided a ton of problems for Neil, right? Thompson provides a ton of problems for a ton of guys. And I would love to see Thompson fight Usman. Now, I think Usman would probably go to his wrestling there, but yeah, we'll talk about that fight more if it does come into play. But yeah, I would love to see that. Neil was getting a lot of hype before that loss. Remember, 5 straight UFC wins over good guys like Perry, Price, Bilal. However, the step up to Thomas was a bit too much, right? Thompson was a bit too much. How much did he learn from that fight? We'll find out. Did he, ruin a bit of his confidence? I know he was having issues after that fight, so I think there's a lot of questions for Neil going into this fight. And Magny was that loss to, why am I forgetting? Chiesa. The loss to Chiesa, guys, was just a bad game plan from Magny. He tried to wrestle and grapple with one of the best wrestlers and grapplers, and that's where he lost the fight. He decided to get cute and try to outwork Chiesa. You're not going to do that. I think he can do it in this fight, though. I think Magny could use his grappling against the cage and his wrestling to win this fight. And that's why that plus 160 is intriguing. I think Neil would have to... He could win a decision, but I think Neil could knock Magny out. Magny has been knocked out twice in the UFC, and we all know James, and we know his steel hands that he is nicknamed for. He could catch him, right? If Magny goes into this fight with the game plan to grapple and make it ugly, mix it up, get some takedowns, I think he can win this fight at a nice price. It's not an easy fight to cap, but I do lean the fight to go over 2.5 rounds, and the value with Magny is definitely interesting. Hard for me to get to Neil definitely at minus 190. I'll be staying away from that price. Guys, next fight here, I'm not going to talk too much about it. It is a heavyweight bout. And if you know me, I stay away from mid to bottom tier heavyweight fights for the most part. Right, Lima minus 188 versus Green plus 162. Both guys need a win here as they have 2 losses in their last 3 fights. No impressive wins from either guy at this price. At this price at minus 108 for Lima is crazy in my opinion. Green's last 2 losses were against solid guys in Hardy and Olenek. Lima has lost to Romanov and Struve in that stretch, with his only win being against Ben Sosoli, who isn't good, and I don't think he's even in the UFC anymore. So for guys that bet every fight, which I don't suggest, you have to look at the dog money here, if anything. This is a fight that won't make my card, and wouldn't be upset if I even missed the fight altogether, guys. Next fight here, which I think is a great one, Galepsy minus 180 versus Diego Ferreira plus 155. Now this is a fun one, and I think should have been maybe the co-main event. Galepsy is back on the card after his fight being canceled versus Riddell a month ago due to COVID issues on the Riddell side. Galepsy, we know, is a wrestler, of course, and does most of his fights get to the ground because that's where he is the best, right? That's where he can succeed, is when he wrestles. We've seen in the Kevin Lee fight, he decided to stand and he got knocked out. The problem with Galepsy, he hasn't fought for 2 years, right? So when you're going into a dangerous fight against Diego Ferreira, who could be taken down, and we did see it in the Darush fight. Darush was able to take him down and get the win there and able to strike with him on the feet. So I think Galepsy should win this fight due to his takedown ability. But at minus 180 for a 2-year layoff, it's tough. It's tough to me to get to that price. Ferreira's going to have to work off his back, I think, in this fight. He does have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Great black belt, actually. Higher black belt tier. And I do think he can maybe work off his back a bit if he gets taken down. But we'll have to see what goes on here. I think Galepsy will just outwork him. Out-grapple, out-wrestle him for the victory here. Last fight on the card here, guys. Reba's minus 180 versus Hill plus 155. Fun one to open up the main card. Reba's is back after the tough KO loss to Rodriguez. If she won that fight, it could be her in the main event versus Waterson this weekend, not Rodriguez. In this fight, she moved away from the game plan, right? In that Rodriguez fight, and decided to try to strike with one of the best strikers in women's MMA, and it backfired. Reba's only way to win that fight was with the takedowns and possibly a submission. And that's what I think her game plan has to be here. She has to get back to Reba's. She has to go back to bringing the fight to the ground and grappling and using submissions to try to end the fight. I don't think her striking is good enough. I think Hill is probably the better striker here. So I would avoid trying to stand with her. I would try to get this to the ground and beat her on the ground where you're best, right? Don't make it too complicated. Make it an ugly, boring fight. Sure, you're not going to get a knockout, but you can get a nice submission, and that's just as good. Remember, Hill, she loves to take fights. Yeah, she's been fighting a ton, but she's 13-9 in the MMA, guys. Right? This is Reba's. I think she's going to bounce back after that loss. I think sometimes it takes a loss like that to bounce back when you're an upcoming prospect and you have a lot of hype around you, and a loss like that early is good. So I think Reba's bounced back here. This is probably going to make my card. At minus 180, I can't bet that straight up. I'm going to look for a better price, maybe fit in a 2-fight parlay or look at the decision prop. All right, guys, that will do it for UFC Vegas 26. It should be a pretty good card, guys. I think it's a good card. A couple good fights on the undercard as well. Subscriber plays will be sent out after weigh-ins on Friday like usual. Sometimes I do change my mind, guys, on fights, and it does get sent out to my subscribers. So, if I give out a play here and I do change my mind, it can happen. I don't do it often, but it can happen. So, just letting you guys know. All right, guys, like I always say, bet smart and know your limits. Take care.